So is that spatula? Is that spoon? Remove from heat, beat in eggs. Beat sounds like I use a whisk. One at a time until smooth. Ooh, what do I use? What's a fluffy sweet treat with a satisfying crunch? Betty Crocker's answer? Almond Puff. I'm Melinda and I'm cooking my way through Betty Crocker's 1971 recipe card library. Today we're making Almond Puff, which is from section G, Come for Coffee, card number 4. I think the idea of an almond puff sounds delicious. I'm not quite sure what we're going to be doing here because for some reason, the food photographer and the food stylist on set this day have decided to put a coffee pot in front of the dessert. So I'm kind of peeking around, trying to see in the photo what's going on here. It's kind of hard to understand. I don't know why they did that. But what I can see is that I think we're making basically a log of pastry that's cut into slices. And you can see from the cross section of the slice that it is like very light and airy. There's like some air pockets in there. And what's interesting if you look at the ingredients is we're essentially making 2 types of dough and stacking them on top of one another. One of the doughs seems more like kind of a biscuit dough. You're cutting butter into flour. And then the other dough almost is like a choux pastry to me, like you would make a cream puff with, because you're doing it in a saucepan with butter, water, flour, or adding eggs and beating them in. And you're layering those 2 doughs on top of one another. They both create very like light, fluffy, airy results. So it makes sense for using both of those for the puff, I guess. We'll see how it turns out. And then we are kind of topping the almond puff with an almond flavored confectioner sugar glaze and then sprinkling some sliced almonds on top of that. So I think it's gonna be really tasty. We'll see how this all comes together. Let's get started. All right, we're gonna make the first part of the dough, the bottom layer of dough, and we're gonna start by cutting 1/2 cup of butter into 1 cup of flour. So I have my cup of flour here, and we have a stick of butter, also known as 1/2 cup. And it said that the butter should be softened, which I thought was interesting because usually when you're cutting butter and flour, you want it to be cold butter, but we'll see. I have this little dough cutter here I'm gonna use, and if this gets too weird and sticky, we'll regroup. Yeah, it's getting all weird and sticky. Just gotta keep smushing it. Okay, I feel like a dough has formed. A dough has formed. Let's clean this up. Sprinkle 2 tablespoons of water over the mixture and mix with fork. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Now we're gonna mix that with a fork. The water has made it kind of much looser. Got a dough going here. Yeah, I'd say this is the beginning of a dough. All right, now it says to pat the dough into a ball. Oh, it's so fluffy. Excuse me, we gotta get all of you guys. Everyone in. Pat the dough into a ball. Pat each half into a strip, 12 by 3 inches. Now this is where math gets involved, and you know I don't like measurements or numbers. So that's definitely not 12. That's definitely more like 6, 7, 8, 12 by 3. Should I get a measuring tape? Is that crazy? Okay, that's about 10 by 2.5. Okay, we have to keep patting. I mean, I feel like the puff can be whatever size the puff wants to be. If he's telling me he wants to be under 12 by 3, that's fine. It's also kind of askew. It's not really straight on the parchment. That's fine too. You have to listen to what the puff wants. Now the second one, I didn't even know we were making 2 puffs today. I didn't really read that far ahead. I think I'm just gonna try to get this log as long as possible so that when you pat it down, it's wider. What am I making right now? This is the weirdest technique I've ever experienced. This weird sticky dough, which is like cookie dough texture, being patted into a weird log shape. This one looks like it's gonna be 12 by 3. Let's see. Let's just say that this is the primary one and this is our backup, okay? We'll see how they do. They're also supposed to be 3 inches apart and we're under. We're way under. I hope they don't touch. once you commit to like its location on the parchment, it's not moving. So there's not much I can do at this point. Let's go to the stove and make the second part of the dough. The choux pastry is what I'm calling it. In a medium saucepan, heat a ½ cup of butter and 1 cup of water to a rolling boil. So we're gonna add our ½ cup of butter. A lot of butter in this puff. I think I know what's making this puff. It's all the butter. So got a stick of butter going in. We're gonna let that melt. Also have a cup of water here. Put that in. In a medium saucepan, heat ½ cup of butter and 1 cup of water to a rolling boil. Melt, boil. Now I'm trying to figure out what utensil to use, because essentially what we're gonna do is once this comes to a boil, we're gonna remove from heat, quickly stir in almond extract and flour, stir vigorously until mixture forms a ball. So is that spatula? Is that spoon? Remove from heat, beat in eggs. Beat sounds like I use a whisk. 1 at a time until smooth. Ooh, what do I use? I'm really nervous because the last time we made choux pastry was when I was making these little deviled ham puffs, I think they were called. Deviled ham something. And it did not go well. The choux pastry did not rise sufficiently and become hollow inside, and then therefore I couldn't fill them. It became really like tacky and like sticky after it was baked. Like it wasn't crispy and light and fluffy, and I ended up having to make a whole other choux pastry recipe. I believe I learned some things about how to make choux pastry that I've since forgotten. So I know this isn't like a proper choux pastry, it doesn't have all the same ingredients, but the general steps are the same. The idea that you're like heating flour and water and butter together and then beating in eggs, that's the vibe that's giving me choux pastry. So I'm just gonna try to follow these instructions as carefully as I can in hopes that I don't mess up and we get a nice fluffy pastry and not like a tacky, gummy pastry. But I'm really worried. I'm really worried. Butter's basically melted. So now we're just waiting for that boil. Okay, I think we have a rolling boil. So now, remove from heat. Quickly stir in almond extract and 1 cup of flour. Quickly. It's forming a goo. It's forming a goo. Stir vigorously over low heat. Stir vigorously until mixture forms a ball, about 1 minute. Mixture is forming a ball, it hasn't been a minute. Remove from heat again. Beat in eggs all at one time until smooth. Now I think this is where I go in with the whisk. Putting them all in at once. And then we're gonna go in with the whisk. Beat vigorously. We're losing stuff. We're losing stuff out the end. Beat vigorously. It's not vigorous enough. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm sweating. Let's take this goop back over to the table and we'll spread it on our weird logs. Okay, that was stressful. Well, it says to divide it in half, which I've kind of roughly done. Spread each half evenly over strips, covering completely. So I'm just gonna take this big ball of goo out. Is this a bad idea? Maybe I'll take half of this half, plop it there. Another half, plop it there. And then spread to cover it completely. Is this not the weirdest thing we've ever made? It's not like weird in that it's like a weird combo of ingredients or anything. It's just like, what is this technique? What is this procedure? I did like Google almond puff, and Danish almond puff came up a lot. Some of which like looked similar to this photo, the final product, but it was more like it's just a type of Danish. And I've never made like a cheese Danish or any kind of Danish before, so maybe this is similar to that technique, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. This dough is just such a strange texture. It's kind of like bouncy, I don't know. And like to be putting it on top of this other dough, I feel like I have so much of it. Like it didn't really say like how high this should be, like should it be a 2-inch tall log the way it is, or is something gone awry? Once again, the primary looks a lot better than our backup puff. I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this backup puff. Well, I guess that's something. What did we just make? I don't know. But I do know that we're gonna put it in the oven for 60 minutes at 350. until the top is crisp and brown. So I'm gonna get this in the oven and we'll come back in a bit. Well, 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 what do we have here? I don't think this went well. The puff doesn't really seem to have puffed much. It doesn't look that much different from when it went in. I waited until it was quote unquote brown and crisp, but it still feels pretty dense. I don't think there's gonna be airy pockets. And this is the same thing that happened with my hand puff. Something about the way that this recipe card library tells you to make a choux pastry is incorrect. And I don't have the bandwidth to figure that out. But what I will do is proceed with my plan to make the almond confectioner sugar glaze. We'll top it with some almonds, we'll slice it, we'll give it a taste, and it's not gonna be good. And that's all I have to say about that. I mean, it might taste okay. I just know it's gonna be gummy. I can already tell. I can tell from what these weird logs look like that it's gonna be gummy inside and not puffy. And I'm mad about it. Okay, fine, whatever. Okay. We have a cup and a half of confectioner sugar here. I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of butter, which was supposed to be softened and it's actually kind of half melted, and some almond extract. And I'm gonna start by mixing that and then we'll drizzle in the water a little bit at a time because I don't want it to become too runny, which is a risk you take with confectioner sugar glazes. So this is 2 tablespoons of water. I'm gonna put like 1/3 of it in. I think we want something nice and thick and spreadable. I don't want it to be too drizzly. The last thing I want is the glaze to also not look good. The glaze needs to hide our mistake. So I think we're gonna call it. Which one was our backup and which one was our primary? This is primary, I think, on the left. I'm gonna just plop this glaze on here. Trying to give it a nice kind of swirl effect. I don't know what I expected. I still don't know what we're making. It's hard to know what to expect when you don't know what you're making, when it's very confusing to you. Next step, I have some slivered almonds that I cut up further to kind of get them more in the like little bits, chunks consistency that they are on the photo. I realized that they're like browner on the photo. Should I have browned them? Sprinkle generously with nuts. It doesn't say anything about them being brown. Would that redeem this if I brown them? It's so pale. It's kind of part of the allure. Nice pale dessert. Pale log of, sprinkled them generously. It does make it look kind of appealing. This looks like more like a finished dessert. Should we try to cut them? I'm so worried. Ah. I've decided that a serrated blade will be the best option here. I already know what I'm going to find. There's no mystery here. I know what's going to happen. I'm just going to cut off like a 1-inch strip. Aha! Oh! Fascinating. What you can see here is there are air pockets. Just a few little air pockets. This center, gummy. Gummy! So it's kind of in the bottom, crumbly. So something's happening. It got somewhere. I told you that corner though was the most puffy corner. See this slice, very few air pockets. Much gum. Maybe it's supposed to be gummy on purpose. Do you think it's underbaked? I'm afraid to eat it if it's like underbaked. It was in there for an hour and 15 minutes. What was I supposed to do? It wasn't like getting any puffier. How disappointing. Maybe it'll taste good. And if it doesn't, maybe I'll get salmonella. Okay, weird. I guess we'll give these a taste. Oh, it's so gummy. I do think that now after thoroughly slicing and examining, maybe I just should let them bake longer because I recalibrated, I recalculated. I did only have them in for an hour. I thought I had them in for an hour 15. I only had them in for an hour. So it actually, like, you know, given the differences between ovens now and then, it could have just needed like another 10-15 minutes. But whatever, we'll see. I'll give it a taste. I found the one slice that has a lot of air holes in it. And I'm gonna try that one. The bottom is so crumbly. That is confusing to me. Why would you make something that is so crumbly and buttery to the taste that it's like hard to pick up? Unless you're supposed to eat these with a fork. But the way they're kind of in like slender sticks, I assumed that they were more of like a pick up with your hands kind of situation. Okay, let's give it a taste. You know what I realized? There's no sugar in this, except for the glaze. The bottom tastes like an extremely plain shortbread cookie that has absolutely no sugar in it. You need the glaze. It has a nice almond flavor, more like a, because of the almond extract, it actually tastes more like marzipan or something. Not like a precise like nutty almond, but more of that like fakey almond. It is gummy in the middle, 100%. Exactly how I thought it would be. But I don't hate it because the bottom is crispy and the almonds are crunchy. So it's almost okay that it's a little gooey in the middle. I just don't know if that's correct or not. Because when you think about like a cheese Danish or something, aren't those kind of like gooey? Or is that gooey from the filling? I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be gooey or not. I don't think it is. I think it's just that I'm not good at making that choux pastry. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. I don't know, man. Really weird, really weird. Okay, I think this is a good idea. And it looks cute and it tastes nice. Like I like how simple it is. It's not overly sweet. And if you could nail that choux pastry, I think it would have like an incredible texture. My texture just wasn't great. So I don't want to give up on this. I feel like if I made it again, I might be able to do it better, but it's just tricky. That's a very tricky type of dough to execute correctly, I'm learning. And unless you really know the nuances of how to get it exactly right, it might be a fail. So that's kind of underwhelming for me. Just a little sad because I think otherwise it would have made a really cute dessert. Ugh, this choux pastry is so hard. I'm disappointed in myself, but that's okay. We all can't be winners. And I don't want to blame the Almond Puff. They did what they could, okay? I don't know what I did wrong, but it is what it is. It still tastes okay. I just wish it was a little less gummy. I guess for that reason, I'll give it 3 out of 5 red spoons. Okay, back in the box. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, we've made almond-based desserts on the channel before, so check out Angel Food Waldorf next. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and until next time, happy homemaking.